and Part A as well as Part B. I'd like to say, you know, we hashed over these yesterday, and anybody that spoke yesterday, I asked, you know, let somebody else have comments today that hasn't already had comments on this items. If you could, I mean, I think we heard as much as we could, but do we have any public comment on 22A?
Don't you want to introduce it first?
This is the Commission General Regulation 391, guided hunt changes, T005-10, Program Officer 3, Maureen Hullinger. And actually, before we get to public comment, Maureen, if you could just throw us out here what we brought up from yesterday. Refresh us in the briefest sense.
For the record, Maureen Hullinger, Nevada Department of Wildlife License Office. Yesterday, we workshopped the language presented in regards to Commission General Regulation 391. It's revising provisions governing eligibility and bonus points for the main draw if the applicant applied for the restricted non-resident deer tag draw. There was no recommendations for any of the language yesterday to change what was presented, so I send it back to the Commission for action at this time.
Thank you very much. We have any questions for staff? Public comment on this item. Public comment. We're on 21A. 1. Mr. Castanelli. Welcome back.
For the record, Tom Castanelli with Humboldt County. I'll make it quick. One thing I didn't bring up yesterday, when we changed this the first time, I was getting people coming to me asking me to get a guide license, and they would pay for it, so they'd have the opportunity to put in for 2 draws. And that right there told me it was not fair to the general public. The other thing is that was brought up yesterday was the PIW tag. If this doesn't go through, I also feel the guided hunts should be allowed to be put in for PIW tags, just like the non-resident, to make it totally fair for them as well as standard non-resident. And we could go further than that to create more revenues. I think we should look at the PIW draw and see if there's places we could get some more revenue. We could do it on all elk hunts. There's people that are out of the elk draw that maybe would put in for PIW tags. For cow tags, let them do it species by species. Where if you're putting in for a depredation tag, you could, if you're ineligible, you can put in for the PIW. There's another 20 bucks into the heritage account from every person. I think there's ways to get some more money out of the PIW account, but that's for another forum. But I thank you.
Thank you. Is there any further public comment on this issue? Seeing none, bring it back to commission. And, you know, I'll just reiterate very briefly, I said yesterday about this item. You know, this has gone back and forth, and however it turns out today, bring it back in a few years, and it'll probably go back and forth the other way. This is, I mean, there's a lot of people like sitting on the commission, myself included. This is, I see the benefits both ways. They're very strong benefits both ways. It's just, coin's got to fall left or right. It can't stay in the center. So, Mr. Cavan.
Mr. Chairman, I feel the same way. I think we've talked about this, I think at least 3 meetings now. So I would prepare to make a motion, and I move that we do not accept proposed changes to CGR 391.
I'll second that.
It's been properly moved and seconded to deny the making any changes on CGR 391. Does everybody understand the motion? We have a comment.
I'd like to comment on it. I agree that from non-resident hunters that I know that say they only get one chance, and I think that but I do agree with the guides when they say that they don't get a second chance. So what I'd like to see, and I know it can be done, and we got our systems consultant here, but I'd like to see them petition the commission to make their drawing fair by changing the draw system but they can have the unsuccessful non-resident guided hunters can put in for a PIW. And the only way they can do it if they go into one draw. Now, the purpose of this draw years and years ago to go early, the guides testified they need more time to notify their clients, which is fine. And that's when the draw used to take a month and a half to get the results back. But now we got a 48-hour draw. So they could go into the same draw, one draw, save the department a lot of money, and they could go into one draw with the rest of us. And they could have their PIW if they're in the same, if they draw the same time as the non-residents and the residents do, they could develop a PIW for the unsuccessful non-resident guided hunt. They could, their people that were unsuccessful, they could also go and apply for a PIW if they were in the same draw. So I think that's doable, and they could petition us to do this, and we can get system consultant to work up a system where they can go into the PIW, because that was one of the big things. They don't get a second chance, you know, and that's why they're doing this, and we can develop it so they can have a second chance.
Okay. Thank you, and it's like, you know, I don't know if we need to debate the merits of that, but I do appreciate that, you know, there are other options if this motion does pass and this does go down, then we would undoubtedly, and maybe through the policy committee, be revisiting other solutions to the issue.
My concern with that is can I ask a question of?
You know, and sorry to stop you here, but the PIW thing is not really on the agenda, so you can make a suggestion that we look at it in the future, but debating
No,
it.
I was going to ask Maureen if that is part of the, if you went PIW, would that be part of the 400 tags that are now allocated? Or would it be outside of that?
It would be something we could look at a future meeting.
I'm talking about currently, they aren't in the 400. So if you were to go the PIW route, would it be outside the 400 that are currently being authorized?
Partnership and wildlife quotas are set separately.
Okay, well, that answered my question, is that you'd be dealing with more tags, some of which would go to residents in that case, because it's out of a different pool.
Again, the time to debate that is when it comes up as an agenda item. Right now, all that's in front of you is the guides petition.
Appreciate your help on that, Brian. So if we could, I'll call in just a second, but you know, if we could limit this to debate specifically on the item, and we understand that there are other remedies if this goes through. Go, Mr. Vogler.
Well, gentlemen, the guides that hunt in this state buy extra licenses. Their clientele, as I said yesterday, don't show up in 59 international pickups with the doors banging and the tailpipe dragging. These people spend money in this state. It's not affecting the hunters that are residents of this state. Those quotas are already set. And all this does, it sounds like they're getting two pulls on it. But the same guy that fails in the guide draw and goes back and gets in the general draw and still goes and hires the guide from the state of Nevada that's paying taxes, supplementing his farm income and other things right here in the state, plus the money that those folks will generate, is better for the entire system than worrying about whether they got one more bite of the apple than not. It still does not affect our resident hunters, and I would much rather support a different motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Macbeth, then we'll see if anybody else got any comments, and maybe we can get on with this.
Wow. I got convinced that I was going to support the guides and on this basically because of my weighing of the fairness issue versus the finances and the additional revenues that I think that we shouldn't be walking away from. And so I'm just I guess I'm a little perplexed at why this has come up in such late fashion. I guess my ultimate question is why can't we approve approve this regulation and deal with the PIW issue as a separate issue.
The PIW, just let me make it clear, the PIW issue is not part of this vote, okay, because it's not on the agenda.
Okay, let me clarify. I realize that, but that is become the justification for denying the regulation. And so, or am I missing something?
I think everybody understands what's going on. Mr. Cavan, any comment?
My justification for making this motion is simply on fairness. I've been an advocate of this system for the last 20 years since it went private. If we don't have the fairest draw that we can possibly have, we have a problem. If I know everybody's talking about the resident's perspective, and we're protecting our residents. Well, who's protecting the non-resident? The normal guy that puts in for the tag, and already a portion of the tags are already gone. And then the same guy gets to come in and try and take a tag away from him again. Now, that is not fair, and that is not something that I would support. We've got some other issues with the tag drawing that appear to be unfair. We'll deal with those later, and I definitely plan to deal with those later.
Excellent.
But that's where I'm coming from on my motion.
All right, any further on this motion before we proceed to vote? Everybody understand the motion? It has nothing to do with PIW. Everybody understands that, right? Okay. All in favor of the motion, signify by raising your hand. Okay. And all opposed? Okay, did we get that? We had in opposition, we had Mr. Vogler, Mr. Macbeth, Mr. Capurro. In favor, we had Mr. Howell, Mr. Wallace, Mr. Cavan, Mr. Shrum, and Vice Chairman Lent.
Who was the other person appointed?
It was
Those three.
5 to 3. Motion passes 5 to 3. All right. Thank you very much, and we'll be looking at the other things, and you'll probably see this. Probably the next commission will see this back in a few years. Item B, general